Oh, people, welcome to Bait This Alive. I'm glad to be here bringing you through the whole as we continue on with the Nehemiah Studies. We're going to chapter 2. This is the fourth in the series, starting at verse 1. Now, in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was set before him, took the wine to the Well, then the king with the queen beside him asked him, how long would the journey take you? When do you return? He said, please the king to send me and set a time. I also said to him, if it pleases the king, may letters be given from me to the governors west of Euphrates, that they will grant me safe passage until I reach Nehemiah. And yea, I have a letter to Asa, keeper of the king's forest, so that he will give me timber to make thee the gates of the citadel to the temple of the city of the Lord, to the house I will occupy. Because the gracious hand of my God is upon me, the king granted my request. We've got a couple of words here. Use this as a definition. First one I want to look up is, of course, is to look up here. ASAP. This is up here. We will take this definition. There's three things for it. For the reason that I'm showing this at the time. That means not to be guys. Okay. Asaph is a Levite. He's the son of Berechiah. Berechiah. Okay. Let me be praised. One of the leaders that would become David's choir. David, father of the ancestor of Joah, father of the kingdom of Judah, and the reign of Hezekiah. And then, what's the name of that one? Boy's name, Hebrew origin, means collector. He's going to a hoarder. So he wants a letter given to him, right, to the governors of Euphrates, until he gets past. It's of course out of safe passage. I know to do that. And he wants a letter to this collector, keeper of the king's forest. He's a collector and keeper of the king's forest. But his job, his name is his job. He's look after the forest, and he collects all the parts, and he does the stock in there. He owns all the land. He still owns all the land. You think you're buying property, you own it, deed it? Nope, you don't. You never own the land. As long as the king, you may give you all you're buying with the right privilege to dwell on it, that king owns the land. Even though we have a prime minister in Canada, you have a president of the United States. All you did was gain sovereignty to be able to make choices for yourself without the king's consent. But the king still owns the land. You own the land because you bought it off the First Nations people of the land. In some cases, you just grab and ran. So therefore, legally, scripturally, you don't own the land. The ones that have bought and paid for, you do own that land. You are prior to it, but also the fact that the land still is entitled to the king. So you didn't buy it for yourself. It was not bought, purchased by yourself. It was then purchased for the land to the sovereign king of the time, or king of the time. And then cattle. But believe me, set up on welcome to sheep. So, here's another thing too. Let's look up the meaning for the front of it, Euphrates. We gotta see sometimes in life. Honestly important. You never think about this. Something as the river, Nesher. In Hebrew Bible, it's often just referred to as river, not called river. It's called Nesher. The word Euphrates translates from the word gush forth or break forth. It is always assumed to mean river, but this is not explicitly stated. It literally means breaking forth of liquid. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Man, guys, I come from full gospel roots kind of thing, and I'm sitting there, I don't know how many right? Slept through this one. I mean, I could just to break forth, to gush forth a great deluge of water. Euphrates. You know, for the governors west of the breaking forth. For the preachers that are west of the breaking forth. Revival? Come on. you got to pass through Euphrates. You got to go through the torrent. You got to go through the mighty rushing waters as well as the mighty rushing wind to be immersed in that water. That and Jordan, the River Jordan, are very often referred to. And these are spiritual clues as where we should be. You don't get this stuff in church. They never once get this stuff in church. In one church or another, wherever I've been, Christian or even Messianic, I have never heard any of them take the 5 seconds to look up the meaning of these words that repeat over and over and over, that in themselves break a whole new meaning. We could have just read this. I also said to him, if it pleases the king, may letters be given to the governors west of the Euphrates. And kept right on going. We know the Euphrates is a river. But looking up the meaning, the gushing forth, to break forth, the abundance of water, okay. For letter Asaph, the keeper of the garden, his own name means the keeper, or, so that timber, he has to keep count of the trees. So he has a requisition of permission. He's not just cutting trees down and get himself in trouble. It's going to save this guy a whole lot of trouble because he'll send the letter off and then the king's army come down only to find out that he has legal aspect to be there. He's gotten all the paperwork filled out so that he can take it and get the lumber that he needs out of that forest so that he can make beams for the gates of the citadel of the temple to help build the city wall, as well as to build a house that he's going to live in or occupy in at the time. And because the king really liked Nehemiah, he granted it. He gave him that request. How many times do we take a king's permission or ruler's permission? There was a group in Chilliwack that I ministered to for a while. And that, they've changed names now. Ruth and Naomi's is what it is. It used to be called something else. At one time I've forgotten. Forgive me. I can find out. People you need to know. And I spoke there for 5 days. And I held over for 2 more past the 5 days. And God began to move. And I did something called Walking Amongst the People. And the pastor called me aside after, what is this? And I explained what is going to happen. He said, well, what exactly happens to you? And I go like, I'd like to tell you, but I never know. I never know. I don't plan it. It's not rehearsed. It just happens. Where I go down amongst the people, walk up and down the aisles or around in circles, they're in chairs and stuff like this,
And every person gets ministered to, some in prayer, some in the scripture, some in prophecy, some in teaching, some in word of exhortation, some in revelation, some in knowledge. Depends on the gift and who the person is. I mean, I don't even know till I touch the person physically with my hand and it pops out. It's this phenomenal thing. I'm even amazed some of the things that have been told to me that I say. I'm never conscious of what I say. I don't think about what I say. It's not pre-planned. I don't know. And and the confirmation that comes out of not just the person that I'm ministering to, um, but also from friends and neighbors who happen to be there and heard it or heard of their report and say, you don't know what you did for that person, individual, whatever. Go like, well, first of all, let me correct something. It's not up to me to know. It's up to God because God reveals. So, because of the gracious hand of the Lord, he's got everything he needs. He's gotten the permission. And I went to that pastor and I said, before we go out, I need to do one more thing. He said, what's that? I need 2 people to walk alongside me. And these people are my score counters. And he thought I meant that I needed stuff to boast on, whether it was right. And I corrected him, no, pastor, you don't understand. Prophecy must be declared by 2 or 3. These helpers are there. If somebody says, no, that wasn't accurate, that's not right, they immediately bring that to my attention. I will not proceed 5 seconds past that moment until it is either corrected or revealed what it is, where the error is, because a prophet cannot miss a boat in a second. So you have all this happening. I went to the pastor and got his consent. I did everything by the scripture according to how it should be consented. And in the end, when he gave his blessing and some milk, I still bothered him for one more thing. I said, before I go out, I need you and your elders to anoint me in oil and pray for me and bless me. And then you give me the command to go forward, because until you give me that command, this is your congregation. It was a reformed congregation. Me, a messianic, ministering in a reformed congregation. And I said, once you pray for me and bless me and send me out, then God can do his will. Otherwise, I just walk on my own. I'd rather not waste my time. And he consented, and they prayed for me. And I told him the scriptures that was involved and how things and how I did. And he saw how everything I did to the T. He said he had heard stuff like this, but he'd never actually seen it done. And he was amazed. 100% of the people that I ministered to that night, 250 in the first night, I think it was close to 500 people, including people in the parking lot that couldn't get into the building, got ministered to that night, and an after service that went on afterwards. That's God, folks. That's God. And Nehemiah took the wisdom, and he ushered forth the thing, making sure that all his I's dotted and T's crossed. Obedience is better than sacrifice. In these situations, when headships rebel, and God's telling you something, that's a whole different pattern. But wherever we can, and however we can, within respect to the nobles upon us, that have been presented there and placed there by God, we need to show them honor and due respect. But when they make silly laws, like don't meet in your congregations, which that's against our constitutional right, freedom to assemble. But they got no problem with Walmart and Costco, and this is direct representation of today's world where we have this COVID scare going around. And I emphasize it's a scare. They're using it to bring us down and break us and put us into place. In Saskatchewan, Canada, they're looking at seizing cars and taking people's livelihoods, jobs, having them fired. What? Can you say please state? You know voices like mine are going to step up. This is May 2021, and we have draconian fascist laws and rules coming down upon us. We are not Borg. We will not assimilate, and my apologies goes out to the Star Trek people. It is one of my favorite quotes, especially in these times, of Jean-Luc Picard, who said, I am not a Borg and I won't be assimilated. They want to make us ready for the mark. And they're taking this opportunity, as Justin Trudeau has said, what a beautiful time for a reset, economic, global, whatever reset. We need to be mindful of what these evil men are up to. And I won't bow down to the idol with the king's consent that this is the only thing I need to pray to. There's only one God. Elohim is his name. And I will worship him with all my sight, and all my soul, and all my spirit, and all my being. Neither will my lips profess any other means by salvation than by his Son, Yeshua. Any church that is counseling you to stay home and not take away your freedom, ordering you to stay home, not your freedom of choice, will just as easily usher you to take the mark. And they're doing the same thing right now. You can't enter a store without a mask. And they're going to make it worse. Come across the problem now. A lot of people have got a needle. Well, how do we decide who has had the needle and who hasn't had the needle? Passport's not enough. It can be altered. We already found several false fake IDs with the passport. It's not working. What are we going to do? Already, scientists said there's a slip a little chip that can monitor you, your health, your wealth, and your being. Let's just stick it inside you. If something's going wrong, we'll know about it and we'll call you in. It's not the ones who got the chip that they want. It's the ones like us who are standing in the corners, our pastors and our rabbis and our ministers and teachers who are going to be arrested. Going to be arrested. I said this from the beginning. We will be arrested. We now, in the country of Canada, shamefully arrested 6 pastors, and there are people out there saying we should be reprogrammed. We are brainwashed. Talk to the people who are pro-maskers, and they're there going, you should put a mask on. And the anti-maskers are sitting there going like, well, it's a free country. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I choose not to wear a mask. It's my problem. I'm a big boy. I can pay the price. Or big girl. They, on the other hand, said, you should be arrested. You should be thrown in jail. Your church needs to be disbanded. I think you're a cult. I think you're wrong. I think, what would Jesus do? Well, I told you what Jesus would do. The same thing I'm doing. I know, because I'm Nazarene. And if you paid attention and did your homework, you'd know that the Nazarene were the first. They existed before Catholicism. And Catholicism is a mixture of Christianity and different pagan religions brought to you by the Gnostics. That's why you have high platforms and big pulpits and people with master's degree telling you what you should believe. Because they felt that you, the ignorant slobs that had no education, which marks your freedom, didn't know a hill of beans about Jesus, and they should be the ones to reveal the secret knowledge of what Jesus, what it was, and what he really meant. Wake up! Time's ticking. Those of us which have the truth ain't going to be here much longer. Until next time, this is Daniel saying blessings and shalom.